What is up, folks? Casual Dad here with another Warhammer Combat Cards video. It's been a minute, and I've got just 7 hours left until the end of the ladder season, so I'm going to do a quick ladder season update. I'm going to play a couple ladder games, talk just a little bit about kind of the state of the meta, and talk briefly about these two campaigns we've had going on, and it looks like we're going to get a couple more, which is kind of fun. So we're going to get Space Marines next, more Space Marines, and then we're going to get Tyranids after that, and it's pretty cool to get copies of this guy. So I'm pretty excited about that one. That's going to be fun. But just to talk about these, if you are in the home stretch of the last 7 hours or so of this campaign, and you want to knock it out to get that copy of the man himself. I cannot click on the thing and I'm blanking on his name. Anyway, the new Dark Angels legendary warlord, Azrael. There it is. If you're working on getting through this, I really emphasized using Fear, using Shields, and using Furious Charge. And I want to say you use the Lion as the Warlord, of course. His Warlord ability is really good, just giving kind of a passive boost, and then also letting your cards attack first, and then probably most importantly of all, the first time on any turn where an enemy card is going to deal damage, not just attack, so Psychic, any area effect attack counts as well. The first time an enemy card is going to do damage directly to the Lion when your Warlord is on the board, one of your cards will melee attack it first before that attack resolves. That is fantastic with Asterath. If you happen to have a copy of Asterath, he's really incredible in this. Getting that passive boost, hitting really hard at max level, and having that max level fear was really good. Other standouts were Mephiston, Tor Garadon. I personally used Lazarus, and then I also used the cheaper Taunt and the cheaper Medicae. Those are both in there. Those are both really helpful. Hope you got through this. If not, maybe those quick tips are helpful. On the Warhammer Combat Cards Reddit, there was a really good breakdown deck that was particularly good, and a couple alternative options thrown in there if you don't have some of those bigger legendary cards. If you haven't tried it and you have time to knock it out, this is a max level campaign, so all you need is one copy of a card to run at max level. So you shouldn't worry about being a low level player, because you get the max deck points plus quite a bit, and then you also get your max level cards. So give it a try if you can. Got a little time left on the clock there. And then likewise, this Chaos one, significantly harder. They always do that with the Space Marine ones. You also get your selection of Warlords, not the selection that they have. Excuse me. Unlike the Lion campaign, you don't play as the Lion the whole time. In this one, you get to actually pick your Warlords. I was by far most successful with Huron Blackheart, who's whenever his cards kill an enemy card, they gain some of their attack stats back. I leaned a lot on the Greater Demons. I had the Lord of Change, I had the Bloodthirster in there. I had the Syl-esque, the Furious Charge, Inspire, Legendary, the Slanesh one, and then some whatever stuff filled in around that. Really liked Furious Charge with that, really liked Poison, really liked Fear. Just barely got past Shaz-O and then the guy after that, and that got completely stomped by, what's his face? Creed. Up here with one win on the 700. So I would like a copy of Cypher, but it's not really worth it. I'm saving up my plasma for the later campaigns because I'm really interested in the one that has the Tyranid cards. And then I know the season's about to end, so I'm about to get a big influx. So it seems a little bit silly to spend more money for plasma right now. So whatever, we'll get to that later. So that's that. Let's jump into the ladder. And I slacked a little bit this season, so we're going to go ahead and dive right in here. And I'll talk about my top factions and top decks after this match. I'll go ahead and get one in here real quick. As per the usual, to quote one of my favorite podcasters, now defunct, that's Ryan Farmer from Gold Squadron podcast, if you're familiar at all. I am seeing some Akaran, some Captain Akaran, this Space Marine hero. In the upper ranks, not as much as I'm used to seeing. He used to just completely dominate the top tier decks at the latter part of the season. Really doesn't anymore anywhere near the same level. He's still a big deal and comes up a lot, which is one of the reasons I've been playing a lot of Skulltaker, because Skulltaker's ability does counter his ability, as you saw just there. If you do lethal damage to a card, Skulltaker's ability will then trigger after Akaran's, so it'll kill a card, even if it would have survived. So when it comes back with that 5 health and no damage, it will die anyway because of Skulltaker's ability triggering after Akaran. So you're going to see that happen twice here. Love it. That gives Skulltaker a pretty significant edge over Akaran, especially since most Akaran decks nowadays are not actually the full Psychic ones we're kind of used to seeing. So this one, I'm just going to wreck this and get a giant bump in trophies, because look at that. Now, pure ranged or pure melee Akaran decks are very effective, so this deck you're seeing him play is actually a really great one to run with. It's got a lot of tools, it's got a ton of durability. You saw Big Game Hunter, you saw a little bit of AoE Psychic. This, though, is relatively low level, so there's a good chance this guy was laddering really hard early in the season, which, boom, good job. But yeah, so this should be a relatively easy win. Then I can look at my other decks and factions. I did have a lot of travel this particular month, so I did slack off a little bit. So you can see I'm not super high on the ladder tier, but still upper Terra. But so I have 12k trophies, which is lower than I usually get, but still respectable. No shame in that. Let's see, he hits for 63 with a melee buff. I wonder, will outflank that? And this isn't a particularly close game, so I don't really have to worry, but, you know, if I can keep the Bloodthirster alive another turn or two, let's do it. Bum, bum, bum. Gotta knock the shields off the Akaran. And I will say, I am seeing more Akaran this season than I have in past seasons. Not sure if it's my trophy level or what, but it's definitely a little bit more common than I'm used to seeing. I am also playing in the final week, and in fact, the final weekend, which I usually don't. Just because it gets significantly tougher, especially at the upper levels of Terra and like the top 20%. So, peace. Yeah. Oh, that's what I want. A big old chunk of trophies. Awesome. That's probably not enough to get me to 3k, but that's okay. If you want to get kind of the top tier Terra rewards, you want to get around 13k trophies. 12k is enough. I'm perfectly happy with that. Give this a second to load. There we go. So here's my standing here. I got everyone to 3k except Chaos by a hair. Got a little margin on the others to bump it over that. To really get in that top 15, top 10%, you want to be around 3.5k per faction. And it's quite an impressive grind that gets much harder the later in the season you get. That second week is really the gold spot where most decks are rated appropriately, but you still have a really large pool of decks to play against that are rated appropriately. In the first week, you'll either hit really low-ranked decks that don't give you many trophy gains, or you'll hit really overpowered decks that just got dialed down that'll beat you and slow your roll. So week 2 is really your money spot. Hit that as hard as you can in a latter season to progress, especially if you're starting out, and then even later on, that'll let you bump a little bit higher than you otherwise will be able to. As you get into week 3, it gets harder, and week 4, it gets really hard. But here are my top factions this season. Space Marine, I rocked it out a bit. I do have an Artemis deck that I really like. Ooh, hey, level up. Oh, that is a good level. Right at the last day of the season, of course. That's huge. But yeah, I like Artemis a lot. We'll go ahead and try this. There we go. And this is just a nice kind of balanced deck that uses its ability by having a full deck and then has a little fear, has a little couple tools in here. You want your cards to be dealing damage, but also dying kind of steadily to benefit from the free damage he does for deploying cards. It's also melee focused, but there's a little psychic in there too. And Mephiston's just good at everything. But I did have a little trouble progressing with him, in part because I didn't have that target acquired on Artemis himself. And so my best Space Marine this season was actually good old Helbrecht. This guy had a great season. So this is the deck I ran. Worked really well. I've got decently leveled cards, but they certainly could be higher. And some of these would get subbed out as they, as other cards I had get higher level. This guy in particular, I think I only have, rank 2 Inspire. But he's still fast, so he gives you a nice initiative and has a nice chunk of hit points and a decent melee plus his Inspire. So he's a good one to use. Really like the other ones. Really like that regen, and then also that fear. And also Deathblow. Those two are, that Deathblow is really extraordinary with Helbrecht because it does also apply Deathblow with the bonus hits you've gained from getting Helbrecht's, bonus damage. So that was my most successful Space Marine. My most successful Eldari. It was tricky. I think I probably would have done better had I run my Avatar. Now that the Avatar has gained fear, that's definitely a thing. That makes him quite a bit scarier than he was. Especially in that end game, he's just a monster with high-level fear. I will say not quite as much of a monster as Abaddon, because Abaddon buffs himself whether or not he's getting kills, and Abaddon has fear as his primary stat, so this is flipped. So he's got fear Inspire, so he'll get max level fear before he gets max level Inspire. Whereas this guy's reversed, he'll get Inspire before he gets Fear. So he's not quite as durable, although he starts with higher hit points and higher base melee damage. So yeah, the Avatar is really, really scary. But the best Warlord that I ran in Eldar this season was, of course, Lilith, excuse me. Heavy ranged, I did make a couple substitutions here. You'll notice I don't have the Harlequin, the Shadows here. Just a hair too many points for me, so this guy is now my shield stand-in. Just because I really wasn't getting any mileage out of that guy, and he really was just there as a shield tough body. So this guy's in here. And the Death Jester also adds quite a bit of both ranged damage, since it's a shooty deck, and then also adds that Fear for the extra durability, and is no slouch. He has a melee attack, so you can still clear shields on melee turns. Still does struggle with Akaran. Akaran stops this deck cold, which is a problem. So later in the season, I hit a bit of a wall with her. Still got to 3k, but hit Akaran enough that it definitely slowed my progression quite a bit. This is a really scary deck to get up to the upper tiers, but then can hit that wall. Still need a few more levels on these guys and a few more cards to kind of fit in there. May still not be as good as the Soup or the Melee one that a lot of people run, but this is the one I've been running, and it works quite well. This guy, when I finally get the next level of Morgan Ra to get that even level 1 Barrage, is going to be absolutely insane with Lilith in a ranged deck. That is just crazy powerful, so look for that one. I'm tempted to sub this guy out for something that has Barrage, but he hits so hard on single targets that it's been hard to do that. And also at that price point, because the alternatives I would have would be in the 50s or 60s in terms of the points cost, which would definitely trim what I can put in here. So that was number 2. Number 3, Servants. I had a couple pretty scary decks. Of course, Creed being up there, and position 281. No slouch, but it's still, I think, top 20%, if that. Yeah, my Creed deck really hurting for card levels. So this is when I want to level up a lot. This guy's fine. This one is kind of the key of the deck, and is really low level for this card to have that high points. So I keep this deck built because it's going to be amazing one day. It still does perform very, very well, but not quite as much as I'd hoped. The big one I ran this season was Cheaty Inquisitor Greyfax herself, who did get another debuff and getting a points update. But I just got this guy up to level 9. So he has that, what do they call this? Psionic Blast. So now all 3 of my starting cards have Psionic Blast, plus the buff some Greyfax and or a little bit from this guy. So this I actually started as a momentum deck. I used it to level quickly early on, and then it kept performing, so I kept playing it. So this actually was my strongest Servants deck of the season. And then last but not least, you saw Chaos. My strongest deck has been, again, that Skull Taker that I showed in the beginning, because it is one that can punch through Akaran decks. It does still hit a bit of a wall. Some really strong performers, you saw Akaran. Akaran can still be a problem in the pure psychic ones, where you get the Tigurius and Mephiston and Y'all, the Stormlord or Stormcaller. That still is a pretty nasty challenge for this, because it puts out so much damage, and the shields on Tigurius just take so long to chew through that the other cards kind of work their way at you. So that is an issue, but can perform. Some of my other stronger ones, of course, one guy that counteracts that is going to be a poison-heavy Gloggothrox. And then another really strong one is, of course, your Huron. Huron is a real nasty customer these days. Next season, I'm not sure what I'm going to play yet. I'll kind of revisit once I see what cards level up in the beginning of the season with the big cards dump tomorrow. If there is a Tyranids Battle Pass, I'm going to buy that and go all in on Tyranids. Likewise, if there is a Votann Battle Pass, I'm going to do that as well. Some of the top contenders I've saw, aside from Akaran, the cards that have given me the most trouble, or the Warlords that have been giving me the most trouble, I saw a lot of Mozrogs. Really gave me trouble, the Mozrogs. I saw a bunch of those, a lot more than usual. Handful of Stormlords that weren't too bad. Akarans, a couple bad Druks that are just kind of standard, weren't terrible. I really didn't see a consistent theme this season, in part because I wasn't playing quite so much so consistently, but also just because there are so many Warlords that are decently strong, I didn't really see any big patterns emerging, which is great. Nice balance, you see a lot of variety, so that's where we're at. The next thing I want to go ahead and do is I do want to talk about the new cards that have dropped, but I'm not going to do that on this video because it's already been getting pretty long. So I will drop this to see if it can help people before they finish up those campaigns, and then I will talk about these new cards in an upcoming video because it's been a minute since we touched the ones I don't have. Scroll, scroll, scroll. They're way down there somewhere. I'll do that by faction, but we'll get to that. So I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you all have a terrific week, and we'll be back soon.